What's up, Scallywag?
What up?
Dude, you looked like a dang wuss this morning in those chest waders.
Can you do anything good and not get scrutinized by Chad? They're like, if I would have wore shorts, they would have been a little too long. And what are you wearing those long shorts for?
You went into the water with a man in a pair of running shorts. He was going all the way under, and all you had to do was get waist deep, and you wore a daggone pair of chest waders.
I didn't see you doing anything, so you can't say nothing.
Well,
you should have waited out there for encouragement.
I was just there as a spectator.
Nope.
Darren, by the way, why did you ask Blake to baptize you and not me?
That's it.
What the heck, man?
I figure you get lots of requests. Well, I was saying to Kristy on the way back, I said, Blake's powerful. Blake is a man of few words, and when he speaks, it means something. And,
you're...
And I talk a lot like you, so...
Obviously, you are one of our more intelligent podcast listeners because what people don't understand is Blake is actually the best of the whole bunch. He's the best of the whole bunch. And people look at me because social media and in my background and all this, and they think, oh man, Chad, he's the good one, he's the top dog. That's not really true. It takes but I think it takes an intelligent person to see through my bull crap. and here
we all got our own flaws. I'm just as flawed as anybody else.
The chest waders, by the way, were my idea.
I wasn't going to wear it. I told Chad, I said, it's going to be cold. And he said, you ought to go get some waders. And I thought, that is a good thought.
That's a setup.
I called him yesterday, I think, and I said, man, if I was baptizing Darren tomorrow, I would go down to Dunham's and I would buy me a set of chest waders. And then he showed up with a pair this morning.
I wasn't going to go buy none, but I remember Dad having some. I said, do you still, because he was going to throw them away, and he still had them. So, but they were all dilapidated, and I didn't get my upper legs wet, but everything else was wet.
Yeah. Well, everybody, welcome to the 3 of 7 podcast. Kristy, what's going on this morning?
Hey, this is a good day. This is a day I've been praying for years, actually.
Awesome.
Yeah. This is an amen.
Well, we're happy to have you guys here in the podcast studio. I have so many freaking questions for you guys. First of all, for you guys listening, this is Darren and Kristy. I've ran into you guys so many times. Do you like how I look at you through the
like a sniper
gap in this microphone arm? I do that to Blake. That's where Blake usually sits. Dude, I've ran into you guys multiple times. Just at the race, at the Mid-State Mile, at the Tennessee Mile. Which, by the way, guys, the Tennessee Mile. The race director listened to the last podcast, and they're going to post my results for you guys on the Tennessee Mile. Okay, so don't you worry if you're still trolling my ultra sign up results, looking for how I did at the Tennessee Mile. They will be up on there, so you can calm down now and keep trolling, and you'll see them posted on there. But I've ran into you guys multiple times, and obviously just got little snippets of your not life story, but I guess your current situation. And it stood out to me. But when we're at events, we don't get time to go in depth. We don't get time to really have in-depth conversation about why you guys are doing what you're doing, what your background is. And one of my big questions is, how the crap do you do marriage on the road with three daughters, right?
That's right.
It's like, my day-to-day marriage is the hardest thing I do in life. Ask Blake. Blake called me this morning. He said, what are you doing? I said, I'm arguing with Brooke about buying this set of night vision. He said, you're still arguing about that? It's like, how in the world do you maintain a healthy marriage living the lifestyle you're living with 3 daughters? It's like, wow, what a freaking accomplishment. So that's another side. But yeah, we haven't got time to sit down and have a conversation. That's why I'm so thankful for this opportunity. Yeah. I just want to start real quick just what you guys' background is, because I don't know. I know, were you born and raised in Canada?
Yes,
because
sir.
I hear this accent about, you can't say about. You cannot say
We could say it.
About.
no, that's not about.
It's the same as you, I feel.
So obviously you were up there for quite a while. What's the deal, man? What's the background?
Yeah, we're both born and raised in Canada.
Okay.
Yeah. And we live in London, Ontario, which is just about an hour from the Detroit border. So we would cross over into the States on a regular basis. Back before the borders closed down. Darren, you were?
Yeah, I was a police officer from 2006 to 2011. And then I made the switch. I went to the fire department from 2011. I was currently on a leave of absence. And I guess it's probably a good time to let everyone know a couple weeks ago I quit.
Yikes.
So
We can't
so we are now
send this to your mom.
we are now don't let my mom know. But so we are now so we are in the States. So we left in June. So we sold our house, sold everything we owned, and we packed up a motorhome. And at that time you couldn't actually drive across the border, so we flew across and had our motorhome shipped and met up with it in Detroit, and we started driving south.
What in the
And so the funny part is running is what brought us here. So we had felt for like 2 years that we wanted to take.
Darren, pull this mic up.
Sorry about that.
There you go, man.
We want to do. We wanted to go do something different with our family and live a different lifestyle. So 2 years ago, before everything, we were like, we're gonna take a motorhome trip. We're gonna tour Canada and maybe go down to the States. And then we had booked everything to do that in May, and then things started shutting down even more. And we said, all right, we had seen your race from last year at the Mid-State, you and Greg. And then I actually ran a fundraiser with Greg kind of last November. We raised some money for Greg, and I had some emails with him. So we said, I said, you know what, if I can get into this race in July, is it in June? June. Yeah, if I can get into this race in June, we're going to scrap the Canada trip and we're going to head south. And so I signed up and I emailed Becca, and she's like, yeah, come on down. So we're like, all right, let's go to the States.
Okay.
And we just started heading south.
Now, I have to understand, when you watched, how did you end up seeing the Mid-State Mile when Greg and I?
She saw it on Instagram. I don't know if it was Jesse's or...
Okay, so you guys follow Jesse. Mm-hmm. Okay, there's that connection. Yeah. I was wondering where that was.
That's how I found you. I heard you on Rich Roll. A buddy of mine sent me Rich Roll, and I've been a fan of Jesse for a long time.
Yeah,
love what he does, right? And so that's how I got connected with kind of your story and what you're doing.
Okay, all right. Now, when did you start running?
I've been running my whole life, but never competitive. Like I ran a little bit of track in high school, nothing crazy. I ran a marathon when I was 17, and then I didn't run for like 4 years because I didn't train for it. And then, just over the years, on and off, have picked up running, and then had this thought that I want to start running long distances, right? Mm-hmm. And
we don't have trails back home.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of trails. There's a lot of asphalt running.
Mm. So the Mid-State was Darren's first ever
trail race.
Yeah. Are you serious, man?
Yeah, well, and I just started training for it. Like it was like 3 weeks before. I was like, well, here we go.
We're going to the States.
Let's go do it.
Better start running.
So I literally went and found hills and just walked up and down hills for 3 weeks.
How did that race go for you?
I think I did about 9 hours.
Okay.
So not what I wanted, but it was. I was so happy when it's legit. That those hills are legit.
You can't describe it to people.
You really can't.
It's something.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, what ended up taking you out of the race?
It was heat. I've realized now from your 50K that it was just heat. I didn't account for the heat.
Yeah.
And I didn't get myself cooled off enough.
Yep. If you guys go back and watch the videos from that, you'll notice every time I came in off a loop, I would put a cold towel that had been sitting in ice over the top of my head. Yeah. That's one of the major parts of that. The two major things at Mid-State Mile is nutrition and managing your heat and managing the heat.
Well, and I did a lot better at the 50K on the second lap because Aaron, Dana, he made me, I had a bandana on. He made me fill that thing with ice. I'm like, I'm good. He's like, no, I'm filling it with ice. And I just started passing people on the second lap and I was feeling great. Like my head was really cold, but I didn't overheat. And I felt great finishing, right? But I was like, that was the problem.
100%. Any of you guys going out and running that race this year, nutrition and heat management. Nutrition, because it is so hot, you got to keep it light. Mm-hmm. That's why you'll see me at that race. All I do is eat fruit and drink fruit juice. That's 90+% of my diet during that whole race, and it's because of the heat. I would generally prefer something heavier, more substantial, but it's because of the heat that I eat that way. So there's you some tips. All you runners, there's you some tips for Mid-State Mile. Mm-hmm. Kristy, what do you run?
5K. That's what I've done so far.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you enjoy running or?
So I didn't start running until, what was it? It was my 41st birthday. And I was like, I'm going to run a 5K because he was in 100K.
Hold on. Did you say 41st?
Yes.
I didn't see that coming.
But that was a goal. So he was running 100K. And I was like, I'm going to run the 5K and I'm going to sneak up behind him and give him a little, And so I did. I surprised him in that race.
You did awesome.
I did it. Yeah. So that was the goal. I wanted to do it in under half an hour and I wanted my kids to see that. And that was my birthday weekend. So did it.
That is so cool, man. What was it like growing up in Canada and how, what was it like? I'll start with that. I have no sense of culture up there.
Have you been to Canada?
When I was very little.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
If it opens up again, you should go. It's beautiful.
I want to go to Saskatchewan.
Get out.
And
That's where I was
deer
born.
hunt. Oh my gosh,
Yay,
for real? Okay.
Yeah.
And we have friends of ours who their sister-in-law, their family farms like 22,000 acres up there.
Jeez.
So you've got some connections.
Oh yeah.
Oh boy.
Oh yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. All right. What's the culture like? How does it differ from here and I'll start with that because I have 1,000 questions.
I think the rumors of Canada is true, that everyone is kind and polite. And I think that that's why it's gotten so hard up there right now, is because it's kind of like a bend over and take it. Kind of like whatever they say is what we'll do because it's the right thing.
Yeah.
So Canada has been amazing. It was an amazing place to grow up in. Great place to raise our kids. I mean, probably much like here. I don't know, but it's beautiful, lovely.
I think culturally
family.
It's pretty similar, like minus like the guns and freedom, but like culturally it is quite similar.
Yeah.
Yeah, like went to school, public school, and I don't know. It's
our national anthem is God Save. What is it? How's our anthem go? They're talking about changing it. Glorious and free, and it's not that anymore. That's in the anthem.
Okay. Mm-hmm. At what point? I want to get a sense of the Christian community up there, faith. At what point did you guys become Christians, and how is that? How is the culture around that up there? Does that make any sense?
Makes sense.
Yeah, I mean,
It's in the South, it's a very big part of our culture, right?
That's what we say. We love the Christian faith culture down here, right?
So we came to the race. So we had been here a week before the race, I think.
Yeah.
And when you guys prayed before the race, we're like, what? This is amazing. And then it was at that race we met the Codringtons, Dwayne and Don, and they stopped and they prayed over us for the adventure that we were on. We're like, what a thing. No one prays over people back home. That just doesn't happen. Mm-hmm. So people say, I'll pray for you. And then that's where it is.
Yeah.
People don't stop and pray for. I was in Costco last week, 2 weeks ago, and we met these people in the freezer section, and he was wearing shoes with the Canadian flag on them. So we just started chatting, and they stopped and prayed over our family in Costco. Like, what in the world? So yeah, there's something different here. The Christian culture back home, there are a lot of churches. I don't think as many as here. There are a lot of churches here, we've noticed.
Well, there probably shouldn't be so many church buildings here, but
yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people go to church, but it is a lot of that's it.
Yeah. were you raised in a Christian home? What is in a sense your testimony? Blake likes to say, when did you realize you needed Jesus in your life? How'd that go?
I grew up in a Christian home. My dad is in ministry, and so that was a full-time thing. So I grew up in that culture, going to church Sunday morning, Sunday night, youth groups on Wednesdays. And I mean, I loved God and I loved Jesus, but it was more knowledge and it was more my personality. I just wanted to please my parents.
Yeah.
So, and it was probably 4 years ago where I was like, no, this is for me now, which is
Really?
crazy. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But I mean, I went to Bible college. I worked in youth ministry for 12 years before we had kids. And I sometimes question, was I even saved when I was doing that? You know, I had so much head knowledge, but did it make sense to me? Was it personal? It wasn't.
I got to hear about that moment 4 years ago.
Yeah, I don't even know. What was it? I don't know. I can't even remember if there was like a trigger moment, but I think we had switched churches. Is that right?
Yeah.
And God's word just became much more real instead of being topical. Okay, I think this is what it is. We had gone to a topical church forever. So how to be a good friend, here's a verse. How to be a good spouse, here's a verse. And then it was more expository preaching. So just open the word and study the word. And I was like, man, this is coming alive to me. So then it became personal. I was like, man, Jesus actually loves me. I'd believed it for everyone else. I'd believed that God was a healer. I believed that God was a savior. But I didn't make it personal.
Yeah.
I believed it for everyone else, and I wanted that for everyone else. I just hadn't maybe felt worthy of it for myself. So,
man, what a unique story, testimony. What a unique testimony. Wow. I've never heard it personally put that way. I'm sure other people have had similar experiences, but I've never heard it articulated.
Well, I would say a lot of people are probably in that position you were in right now. I bet a lot of people listening to this right now may not know it, but are in that same position you were in prior to the 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Man.
That's powerful.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Darren?
Yeah, I grew up in a Christian home. I'm youngest of three. And, I was kind of the wild child. So I went through, my high school years of, just wanting to fit in. I'm like you. I'm a people pleaser, right? I want everyone to like me. I want to fit in. And so just kind of do what the crowd's doing, right? So I spend a lot of time just trying to fit in. And when it's not popular to be a Christian, it's like, well, that doesn't need to be the forefront, right? Mm-hmm. And over the last few years, it's really become evident just the need in our lives, in our world, for Jesus, right? And and that's the only thing that actually matters. When we look back and think what was bothering us, before we left 8 months ago, like none of those things even matter anymore. Like all the things, like what's wrong with the house or what's wrong with the car, what's like the dent in the car, like when you look back, it's like, oh, those things can really be like, and when it's like, there's only like none of those things matter, and there's only one thing that still matters, right? So
that's one thing you can be bold in, right? Like if you really are concerned with other people, there's so many things that aren't truth that you can't, like, wasting your time arguing it doesn't matter because their perspective is true to them and your perspective is true to you. But when the Bible comes up, you can boldly share that and be confident that that is the truth, no matter how anybody sees it. What it says is the truth. And to me, that's the differentiating thing between it and how everything else goes in your life. Like, we could have a disagreement on one thing that's not related to the Bible, and it's probably true to him because his life experience and how he sees it, and that's how it is. And to me, it's different. So for me to argue that or to stand up for that, it really isn't worth my time. But when it comes to a biblical truth, I can say, no, this is what it says. And so kind of to your point there, that's where you can draw the line in the sand and you can really be bold in that.
And stepping out how we've kind of stepped out in this journey that we've embarked on. I don't know. I mean, you're going to have to help me remember, but we've seen like miracle after miracle. Like we have a family verse that we left with, right? Be happy, do good, right? Ecclesiastes
3. Just that portion where it says there's a season for everything.
And at the end it says, live your life. It is best be happy and do good is kind of paraphrased, and we have that on shirts. And we went into this store that has a prayer room where you write prayers down. It's in Franklin, and the Bible was open to that verse. There's a Bible in that room, and it was open to that verse. And there's just so many cool. I mean, our first 3 weeks here, I think we had meals at 3 different strangers' homes that were invited from the race. Like just that Southern hospitality, and just meeting people, and we're firm believers. Like you have to go and do things for things to happen. Like if you just sit at home and do nothing, nothing's going to change. You're going to be worse off, right? Mm-hmm. If you are someone of action, you're going to end up here. Like what the heck?
Yeah.
Like why am I here? Like I'm from Canada.
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
How am I here?
That's why I'm asking all these questions. How did this happen?
Right.
Yeah.
Blake, do you have a Bible handy?
Yeah.
I don't see mine here. I just wanted to point something out here in just a second. Well, what I love about what you just said, Darren, is just in the last few weeks, what I've had to do is I've had to fall back on a solid foundation, which is Christ and the word of Christ, right? So if you haven't noticed, if you listen to this podcast, you will see me and hear me stray onto some very uneven ground and some ground that's real mushy. And what I'm talking about is I tend to get sucked in to worldly problems, which I think do deserve some legitimate attention, okay? But it cannot be the foundation of your message, of your life, of your mission in life. Those things cannot become the foundation of what you are striving to achieve in life, okay? So the last few weeks, I have had to revert or sidestep back onto the solid ground of Christ and who he says he is and what he says about who we are and what we should be doing. I'll probably at some point step off of that solid ground again, and I'll find myself frustrated and going down this freaking rabbit hole of everything going on around me, and then I find myself I'm spinning my wheels in this mud on this uneven ground, and I'm not getting anywhere, and that's what causes the frustration. And it's a constant battle for me between those two, and I think that's in alignment with what you just shared with us, man. And powerful stuff. I want to dig in real quick to essentially the idea for this, or like this trip you guys had planned. What was the like spark that made you guys want to go out and travel originally up in Canada? What was the spark for that?
So our kids have been in school we've homeschooled them most of their school years. They've been in school twice, and they're in school, and we took a trip to Hawaii for 3 weeks, and the island life, the people, the pace, all that, like I've worked, I don't know how many jobs have I worked while I've been a firefighter. I was a real estate agent, a real estate investor, and like I was working 80, 90 hours a week, chasing money, chasing all the things that, we say we don't value, but where you put your time, that's what you value. And we said, what would it look like to slow down and live a different lifestyle? And so we kind of embarked on this journey of, taking time off of work and going, and selling kind of everything that we owned. We had, income properties and all that stuff. And we sold everything we owned. And what would it look like to do something different for a season and see where that led? We know that you want an adventure and you don't know what's going to come out of that adventure. And so we kind of left that open with where it ends. And that was kind of the spark, was that trip. And we literally got back February of 2019, and March, everything shut down. Right.
Yeah. March, I had started to read to Quinn, our oldest, a book. I think it's called Kisses from Katie. Katie majored Davis, I think, is the author. So she was a young teenage girl who went off to Africa. She worked in Uganda in an orphanage. She started this orphanage. And so I was reading this book to Quinn, and it was really life-changing and impacting for both of us. And so I went to Darren and I said, look what you do when you're obedient. When God calls you to step out, look what can happen. And so I said, how would you feel about, because he was hating his job, good job and thankful for the fire department, but not where he's using his giftings.
Yeah.
You know, some of them, but not, I don't believe all of what he's called to do. So I said, how would you feel about if I applied for a job to work at this orphanage in Africa? And he's like, yep, let's do it. And I was like, all right. So we applied for this job in Africa working at the orphanage, and they denied us. And I was like, we're amazing. Why would I turn this down? And it was like our kids were too young to go take this spot. But it was like, all right, I feel like this is a season where God is calling us to live with less. And I wasn't sure what that was to look like. We had just finished rebuilding this home. We'd bought this old home. We gutted it, and it was just finishing. I was like, okay, what does less look like? And we had a bunch of rental properties at the time too. And Darren started to feel like it was time to start selling them off. And that was like a God thing too, because without ever intending it to be, that had become the identity, you know, we're the real estate, we're the rental property, we're the house flipping people. And so when he said it's time to sell them off, we started just to do that. And that was easy for him just to release that. So I knew that God was in that too. And then our house was left. I was like, and this one has to go too. So we sold our house. We kind of had a number in mind for what we wanted to get for our house. And we got it. And then we just sold all of our furniture, and everything that fit into the RV is what we kept, really, except for a few boxes in Darren's parents' basement. So. And
she makes it sound easy, right? Like, we just sold all our stuff, but like for someone who, you know, that's a lot of our memories, a lot of our, like,
yeah, we've been acquiring all that stuff for 14 years.
Well, and even just the house where we've raised our kids, and she did amazing with. For me, I'm not sentimental. Like, doesn't matter. Yeah. But for someone who's more sentimental, it's to be able to release all that stuff and just say, "There's something better." But we can't take all this. That we can't. Like, this will be heavy if we want to carry all this with us. We got to release all that to see what is coming. Mm-hmm. We can't take it all with us. So.
Mm-hmm. So. I love that, because what that just explained to me, there are people listening to this that say, wow, that sounds amazing. Like, I would also like to have less and go on an adventure and do. People think that sounds amazing, right? But what I think a lot of people get hung up on is the financial aspect of it. And what I'm hearing is you guys were making good decisions, being good stewards of your finances, making investments for years and years and years and years, which led you to the point that you said, okay, we've built this, we've built up this, all these things. We've been good stewards. Now we can take, and when we say we want to do this, we can take and go through the process of selling all this stuff off, and then now we have the opportunity to go out and do something that is our dream to do. It takes a long time of making good decisions to get to the point that you can do what Darren and Kristy are doing. Nothing good or significant happens for you overnight.
It was 15 years.
15 years. Yeah. That's right. That's exactly right. I resonate so much with that. The fact that I am sitting here having this conversation and thousands of people will listen to this is a culmination of about 15 years of work that I put in beforehand, right? That's how I built a little bit of credibility and how I have stories and experiences and things that are valuable to pass to others. I just want people to understand this, okay? Sometimes, actually, most of the time, unless you just inherit something or whatever, when you see someone that you doing something that you aspire to do, you can't always see everything that went into that. As a matter of fact, most of the time you won't see everything that went into that. And understand, if you have a dream or you have a mission or you have something that you want to do or some lifestyle that you want to live, it might take a decade for you to get there. And if you're not willing to work through that process, it's not going to be an option for you.
Right.
And that's just the reality.
Right.
I understand why, why you guys, I understand on a very surface level why you guys decided to make this decision. You wanted to live with less. You felt like you were being called, for what specifically? So that's what my next question, like, what is the purpose behind what you are doing? Maybe even beyond yourself. What do you see the purpose in this lifestyle, in the decisions you've made? You left your friends, you left all that stuff, right? There's got to be some bigger purpose.
But that decision to sell everything initially, was that to go on the trip throughout Canada, or what was that? So that was the beginning of that. You guys said we want to live with less. We're selling everything and getting in this RV and going to travel Canada. That was the beginning of that.
At that point, Darren had been granted a 2-year leave of absence from work. So we're going to have 2 years without a paycheck. So to sell all that stuff to release that, that's our income. That's what we're living on, not our income, but yeah.
And so what was the original drive, like the original purpose? Was it for personal reasons, or was there a bigger?
The purpose is those 3 kids in the living room right now.
Okay.
Yep. We're raising little warrior women.
Yep. So it was to kind of get them out to see other things, to experience different cultures and relationships and that type of thing.
Yeah, that would be a big piece. And for them to, at the end of the day, we want our kids to be best friends. I mean, they fight like cats and dogs, but we want them to be best friends. We want to be best friends. We want to get rid of the distractions, get rid of all the screens, and get out in nature. And that was, we for the first 6 or 8 weeks, we had hikes planned all the time. Like when we were really traveling around, we were picking spots and really going out and adventuring and meeting people along the way.
Yeah.
And it was more about going on an adventure and on a mission as a family, and seeing what God put before us.
Okay.
Right. Seeing who came in. I mean, I'll talk to anybody. I'll stop anyone on the street in the grocery and talk to anyone. So it's who are we going to meet, and where is this going to lead? So it was more open-ended than a destination in mind.
Gotcha. Okay. Now going off of Blake's question he just asked a minute ago, obviously things changed rapidly up in Canada. And how did this impact you guys? How did it change the trajectory of this mission? Talk me through that process, because it ended up, you guys are now down here. I still don't understand exactly what you're doing down here, which we'll get to that in a minute. But things changed rapidly. How did that impact the trajectory of what you guys were doing?
We said we came down here for adventure, and now we say we're not going home because leadership is failing. And so we're fighting to stay here for the current season.
Okay.
And so I mean, it's no secret Canada's kind of gone a little bit crazy, and we've said, like, we don't want to dwell on that. The government and the politicians are going to do what they're going to do, and we really have no control over that. But what we do have control over is what we can do and the decisions we can make. So what we did while we saw what was happening, while we still had our travel visa, is we bought a house, a fixer-upper type house in Tennessee.
Okay.
And that has allowed us to start a business. And so we hired an immigration attorney, and we've applied for a visa, and so all of that is pending right now. So we are in limbo with the U.S. government while we wait to see if they need more information, if we can stay, or if they tell us we got to leave. So we are in limbo right now. Mm-hmm. Sometime in the next few months, we'll hear something. Mm-hmm. And so we're heads down and trying to start a business try to start a couple businesses while we're here. And yeah, that's kind of the day to day what we're doing now. So we've parked the RV. We're in there until November, and we kind of moved into this house that was enough of it was done in November, and we're heads down trying to get stuff done.
If you guys get ready to sell that RV, by the way, hit me up.
Hey.
I'm in the market for one. Have been for about a year now.
They're sweet.
Him and Brooke would love one to travel and do their stuff, and so they can bond. You know, you got to spend time around each other more in an RV. I got to imagine, and
I'll tell you,
good for them.
5 of us in that. I mean, we had one. Emmy was sleeping on the floor. We had a mat on the floor because it really doesn't sleep 5 very well. So yeah, it was. But they're fun. I mean, it's a great way to travel.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I absolutely despise flying. I despise flying.
Yeah, I hadn't caught on to that.
Yeah. So I think about 5 years worth of airplane tickets will probably pay for that RV, Blake.
Well, it depends on how much you're flying. You can't base it on years.
We're going to have to talk about this. We'll talk about this offline.
So what happened in Canada that you guys decided, well, now we're no longer going to travel Canada. We're going to go down to the States.
That's a good
Obviously,
question.
you saw the race, and that kind of sparked you. But what turned you off from the?
So we were going to Vancouver Island. That was we had campsites booked out on Vancouver Island, and that's where we were going. And the thing that stopped it is, so we had booked 3 weeks worth of camping on the island, and because of all the whatever, for some reason they shut down all recreational vehicle travel on the ferry to the island. So we couldn't get there. So we had all these sites booked, and we physically couldn't get there. They wouldn't let us on the island. So we said, well, that's kind of, we haven't been out to the West Coast as a family.
And at that point, too, Ontario's next to Manitoba, and they had police in between the two provinces. Mm-hmm. So you weren't really supposed to travel. If you were from Ontario, I don't think you were allowed into Manitoba. If you're from Manitoba, you weren't allowed into Ontario. So it seemed like it was going to be impossible for us to even leave our province to travel through Canada at all.
For coronavirus, was that why they were there?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there's a lot of unknowns as to what we would be able to do if we're traveling with these kids, if we get stopped and get turned around, and we're trying to go on this big adventure, and we're like, well, what a bummer that would be to start it off with head back home and regroup, right? So we didn't want to take that risk, and we just thought, and that race, literally, like my best friend Mike, we were having dinner at their house, and he's like, well, why don't you see if you can go run that race? And so I was sitting on his couch. I'm like, I pull out my phone. I was like, ultra sign up. All right, let's see if I can get in.
That's a good, that helps me. Thank you for asking that question, Blake, because I see now the process there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I kept a journal. I've kept a journal the whole time, every day. So it's interesting to look back, because I have landmarks of why we did certain things, because it's been a bit of a blur for us.
I bet.
Yeah. Within 2.5 months, we did Tennessee, Georgia, Florida, Arkansas, Texas, back to Tennessee. I think.
Something else I can't remember.
Yeah, it was like 6 weeks, and we
Louisiana. Yeah, but back home, our kids hadn't been in a store in a year and a half, because we've just chosen to not mask our kids. So we couldn't go to the library.
Wow.
We couldn't go to the mall. We couldn't go to, anything that you would normally do. Mm-hmm. My kids hadn't done. So when we crossed the border, Michigan was still a little bit crazy. And then we drove through to, was it Ohio? Was that next? Yeah. So then we went into the first Target we saw, and it was like Disneyland for my kids, just running around in a store without a mask on, seeing people. Yeah, it was crazy. Mm-hmm.
Holy smokes.
So at that point, we said goodbye to our friends and family, thinking it might just be the 6 months. But in the back of our minds, we were thinking this could be a forever thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, my family, our friends, they can't come over. And if we go home, we can't leave again. We're locked in to Canada. So that's hard. I'm still mourning. I think Darren's still mourning in his own way. But I would love to know that I'm going to see my parents again, or my brother, but I don't know. And that's really hard. It's really hard.
How are you guys, how do you deal with that? That's a lot of anxiety. That's a lot of, could involve sadness, multiple emotions. What are some tactics, techniques, and procedures that you apply day to day to deal with that level of emotion that you're feeling. That's big, man. Like that's a lot to deal with.
Yeah.
I mean, day to day.
Yeah. How do you deal with it?
I go running.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. I mean, I am outward expression too. Like I do have big sads often. I'm thankful we're in a season where we can FaceTime family on a regular basis. So my kids still have that relationship with their grandparents. And I've talked to my brother on the phone more since we left than I ever have, back home. So there has been some good in it. But yeah, it's definitely really hard. I did have a good, I was listening to a sermon recently and they were talking about when the Israelites left Egypt out of slavery and they were doing their years of wandering in the wilderness.
Yep.
And it's hard. And they were like, let's just go back. Let's go back to what we know.
Yep.
And I have felt like that often. This is our season of wandering. We do feel like this is a training grounds for us being here. But it's hard. Sometimes I'm like, I know if we go home, we're going back to slavery in quotes, or maybe not in quotes. But so it seems appealing sometimes, but that's not where we're called to be. I don't want to look back. I want to go forwards. So.
Wow.
I mean, I told you guys after the baptism that the kind of feeling I got just from being around you, what little we talked at the Mid-State Mile was just like almost freedom or the free spirit. And I wonder, and I felt this way a little bit in my own life, but does leaving all of those things back home, like all of, even your material possessions, your family, a lot of times I know I can find comfort in knowing, even in material things, find comfort in having the house because it's just what's there, it, and it's comforting to be there. But to truly do away with all of that, even leave your family, and then you're on this mission. I mean, how much more did it allow you, if any, to stay like present in the moment, to accept? Because you're right, people offer, hey, you want to come eat dinner? But usually in the South, that's the end of the invitation. Usually people don't take you up on that because they don't want to take the time out, or they're like, no, we're going to go home. That's just what we do. But when you don't have those things, like you can enjoy the talk at the grocery store. It seems like more because it's like, this is why we're doing this.
Yep.
And so did you guys find freedom in getting rid of all of that, and not necessarily freedom in not, leaving your family, but your family gives you some sense of comfort outside of your inner family. Like you guys are a new family when you got married, and you still find comfort in your moms and dads, and not that you shouldn't, but like, did you guys experience that, or how did it affect you getting rid of all of that stuff? Because I like to live with I do not like clutter, and Kat loves to keep everything. She's the sentimental one. I'll find stuff and I'll throw it away. She'll get ticked at me because I throw things away, and I'm like, it's trash, but she wants to keep it. And so, yeah, I mean.
Yeah, I think that was, one of the things that, I don't know if this answers any of that question, but one of the things that came to mind as being an A-type provider, I don't like to ask for help. And one of the things you said about people having us over for dinner, that was really hard, actually, to say yes to a lot of that. We consciously wanted to do that, but to accept help and to accept people's generosity, it can be a bit uncomfortable. Like, it's people you don't know.
Yeah.
And it's like, do they actually mean it? It's like, I'll come. If you're going to invite me, I'll come. But I don't know if you actually mean it. But I'm going to show up at your doorstep. And and
the hard one for me was laundry. When people come do laundry.
Oh, yeah.
Like, yeah, because we're tracking down laundromats for 7 months, so.
Man.
Yeah.
Well, I think that they're, just what we know of their story is a representation of exactly what you just described. The fact that they are willing to take people up on those invitations. That's why they're here. Mm-hmm. We literally said on the podcast months ago, if you will come, we will baptize you. And now Darren's here. He's like, oh, well, yep, I'll take you up on that, man. And like, nobody else freaking does that, man.
They don't take the time out to come actually do something that's a big thing, but in reality, It's a trip down here to get baptized, and that's an adventure in itself. It's a small adventure, and nobody takes the time out to do those things, and that is what...
Because they got too much other crap.
Yeah, they got too many things going on. They got too much that they're responsible for, and that is what I admire, and things that I'm taking away here that you guys are doing that even challenges me. Like, man, how much crap do I got going on that I miss off other opportunities because I'm so worried about all this other stuff that doesn't mean anything, you know?
Right.
Well, I want to say two things. First of all, what you guys just described as far as what is going on in Canada is like the fact that your children hadn't been in a store in a year and a half. That's mind-boggling to me. It reminds me of how insulated I have been here in my little town in North Georgia. I've been so insulated. I've seen little snippets of the outside world when I travel, but I've never had to actually live in it. It's never been part of my day-to-day life. So that was a good reminder for me. Another thing that really resonated with me is, Kristy, as you were telling your story about, or you were describing the story of the Israelites and how there were so many times that they just wanted to go back to what they knew, right? You guys listen to this. If you are living life, and in your life, if you're able to just go at it alone, if you don't need encouragement, if you don't need somebody every now and then to tell you, just keep going. It's worth it. Like the Israelites, they needed someone to tell them, no, we got to keep going. It's going to be worth it. If you don't need somebody to tell you that from time to time, you know what that tells me about you and your lifestyle? That tells me that you are simply living a complacent life that is within the boundaries of your comfort and your capability. That's all you're doing. You are not going to ever get better. You are not ever going to experience the fullness of life. You are not ever going to reach your maximum potential. You're not ever going to do what God created you to do and the mission that He has for you. If you don't find yourself every now and freaking then needing someone in your life to tell you, keep going, it's worth it. If that doesn't resonate with you, you need to change something about the way you're living. Okay? You just told me something about you. The fact that you need to look at that story in Scripture for some, encouragement. That tells me that you are experiencing the fullness of life. And guess what? That's uncomfortable. It's supposed to be uncomfortable. I want to make a statement right now for every Christian, every follower of Christ that's listening to this podcast. Jesus Christ will never call you to do anything that is comfortable. That is literally the worst thing that He could do. That's why He'll never do it. He'll never do it. Because guess what? He knows if He called you to do something with your life that's comfortable, He knows that you, little human, will just simply start relying on yourself, and you will lose perspective of your need for Him. His purpose of calling you to do something that just shakes you up to the freaking bone, that is by design. He has to do that because we are so stupid as humans. He has to do that so that we will continue to look to Him and submit to Him because we realize we can't do it ourselves. That is the reality of the Christian life. And I hope that wakes some of you guys up. I hope that wakes you up, comfortable person. Oh. Sorry.
Love it.
Do you believe that?
I love it.
Yep.
That's a good word.
Yep. We were talking on the way here too about that. If you're in the water and you're in an inner tube and you do nothing, you're just going to drift. The best way for our marriage to fail is to do nothing. The best way for me to have no relationship with my kids is to do nothing. The best way for, whatever, for us to get fat and unhealthy is to do nothing. We got to be doers. We got to step up. And that's, our kids out there, we want our kids to rise up. They are made for this time. And so, seeing Darren get baptized today, our kids, I pray, never forget that moment where he took that opportunity to be obedient and step up and do something that he felt God calling him to do. And we fail. We have to apologize to our kids all the time. But every moment is a new moment where we can try again. And by the grace of God, we're going to step up. We're not just going to float away in our tube. We're going to fight against the current to do more, to rise up.
You failed because you're trying. You're doing something.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It just hit me so hard. This conversation hit me so hard because I'm in a place in my life right now, professionally in business, where I need someone to tell me, hey man, keep going. Like, I need that right now, to be honest with you. Y'all don't know what's going on in the background. Mm-hmm. Y'all don't know what's going on. You don't need to freaking know. Yeah. But I'm in that place right now where I need someone to come alongside me and say, hey man, keep going. It's going to be worth it. Right? And the fact that resonates with me right now tells me that I'm actually doing the right thing.
Yeah, you are.
So, I don't know. That's why this is one of my favorite podcasts we've ever recorded. If it's just simply because that was for me. I'm being selfish now.
Can we do something Southern real quick though?
What's that?
Well, because you say you need encouragement. Can we pray for you right now?
Yeah, totally, brother. I would be honored.
God, we lift up Brother Chad as he is in need of encouragement. He is doing your work. He is living out a faith-filled life, and he is encouraging others. And in this moment, when he needs encouragement, we want to encourage him. We want to bless him. We want to love on him, and we just pray. If you're listening to this podcast, you lift up some prayers for Brother Chad, and that you would, everything that he gives. Leaders often lead from the front, and they lead alone, and that can be lonely. And we just pray that that you give him what he needs, and that if he needs someone to come alongside of him, we just pray that you would provide that person for him. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Yes, and I received that in the name of Jesus, and I believe that. Thank you, brother. All right. I want to hear at least, there's got to be some impactful stories. You told one a little bit ago about walking into the place and the Bible was open to the verse. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be faith-based stories, but you guys have been traveling the country in a RV. Like, are there any stories that just come to mind that you want to share? I mean,
oh man, we've done it all. Like, we were coming back to Tennessee. Like, we blew a tire. Like, I'm no mechanic, but like, just those stories of like, we're trying to get back. We blew a tire, and everyone was tired, and we were miserable. And what was it? I think an hour and 9 minutes. We're back on the road. Like, some guy truck came, did the tire. They went and got coffee at Target, Starbucks, something, right? Back on the road. Like, yeah, what else? I don't know. We've met some.
Let's take a break and give y'all just a second to think about this. I've got to use the restroom anyway.
Okay, let's take a break then.
So you'll love this as a cop. They've changed it now.
Now we're back recording now. We're back recording,
if
that's okay.
Okay.
If you want to share.
I can share.
Yeah.
I think you'd find this entertaining as a cop. We'd have to qualify to shoot every year. But our range had heavy lead levels, and so we didn't get to really train. So we shot for 2 years in a row my training with my firearms, because Canada, you can have a handgun, but you can't transport it without permission from the province. So you really can take it to a range and take it home all in one day, but you have to fill out paperwork to do that. Like it's
Wow.
So in 2 years, we had I shot 45 rounds.
In 2 years.
45 rounds per year. So I shot 90 rounds in 2 years. That was my training to be a.
Wow.
Jeez.
We have a range. We have a range. We shoot about 2,000 to 3,000 rounds in 4 hours, usually in one training session out on our range.
My qualification, my training at police college was about 2,000 rounds.
Wow.
Over
man.
3 months.
Well, you know, that's it's unbelievable,
isn't it?
But you know, I truly believe that here in the States, I always say here in America, and people get mad about that because this is the United States. I understand America is a continent, but all the land is mine. I think all the land is mine. So here in America, if they ever get our guns, that will be the master stroke. That is the master stroke.
I believe that
too. It is
too.
the one thing that stands between a free people and their government. So yeah. Do y'all have any stories?
What you got?
We were just so captivated by the gun, we forgot to talk.
That's all good. It's all good. I mean, I was just wondering if there was like one that really stood out.
No,
for
I
you
don't
guys.
like hundreds. I've kept a miracle journal, and so there are so many stories. But like even this week, I was having a little outward boo-hoo moment because we've got this house now that we're renovating, and we've got 4 camping chairs inside. And I was like, I want a couch. I just want a couch to sit on. Like, can we buy a couch? And we don't want to buy a couch if we're not going to stay in the States because then we've got to sell all our furniture again. So as I'm having this, I want a couch, I got a phone call from someone I go to church with whose friend's neighbor was giving away a couch and 2 beds. And did we want them? I was like, amen, right? So now we have this couch, and now we don't have to sleep on the floor. We have a bed, and our kids... 2 of our girls share, and the other, she's still on the floor. But we've got these 2 beds and a couch, and that's just like a gift. Like God has just been extraordinarily kind. Even this house that we have to renovate. Can I tell this story?
Yeah.
I'll try and keep it short.
Oh, no. This is a podcast where we tell stories.
Okay. So this house we have, we went to look at it, and it felt like kind of confusing. We just sold all of our properties. Why are we going to go look at this house? We saw it. It's a dump. That's the style we like, just to like fix up the dumps on the street. And we put in an offer, and we were the lowest offer. We got the house. You know, people are like, you can't buy a house here. You can't buy a house. Like, it's just, you're competing.
Yeah.
Someone said, I've put in 40 something offers. And I was like, well, we're going to try, because we just feel like God's led us here for this season. So yeah, we put in an offer. We were told it wasn't the highest. The agent came back and said, do you want to offer more? We said, no, if this is supposed to be where we're supposed to be for this season, God's going to do it.
Yeah.
And we got a call a week or 2 later. You got the house. It's yours in 3 weeks. We're like, all right, I guess we're heading to Middle Tennessee for a bit. And,
wow.
Yeah. And even like that house, I think that was like, we were talking about this on the drive here. Just like, again, God being really kind, because houses, like I said, were kind of our identity, fixing up houses, having all these houses. And it's like, why did we, like Darren sold all of his tools, everything, you know? So why did we buy this dump where we just have to rebuy tools to do what we did back home? Why are we doing that? That doesn't make sense. But in the last few months, as we've been renovating, and the church family that we're a part of in Middle Tennessee right now, we were talking about the story of the fishermen that was their career. They were fishermen. And then Jesus called them away from that career to give that back to them as their life. You are now fishers of men.
Yep.
We feel like, for us, you know, we want people to love Jesus, you know? And so we're feeling like we're being called out of, we were given this house to realize that renovating houses maybe isn't what we're supposed to do as our career anymore, but it's more the renovation of souls, you know, being a part of people's lives like that. So God's calling us out of that as a career and giving it back to us as a lifestyle. as a life mission.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we just had to do that here to realize, nope. And you said even what doesn't mean that we still can't renovate houses, because we do like that transformation too.
Right. Yeah. Like the fisherman, he called them out of fishing. It didn't mean they could no longer go and fish. In fact, they did, but that's not their career anymore. That's not what they're here to do.
Yep.
So.
And before we left home too, someone said, I feel like you guys are called to help rebuild the nations, rebuild the ruined cities. And we came here, and within 3 weeks, we had been told that 4 more times by different people. Man. So it's just like God is just confirming that stuff. So again, it's that stepping out, and God just is extraordinarily kind, and he'll meet you there.
What's cool to me is that you guys can see these things that happen, and you see them for what they are. And a lot of times people will over sensationalize things, and they miss what God's doing in their life or the big things that happen, because like the baptism, for instance, someone might have expected to come out of the water and the heavens to part and a dove to descend, and they hear from God and this spirit comes in them, and it's like,
it's just a bunch of rednecks on a beach.
yeah, but that was a big deal. That was a cool thing. But if you over sensationalize and have, I don't want to even say high expectations, because you should, but not for what it's going to feel like or what's going to happen, but to just see it for what it is and put it in context. Say, wow, that really is a big deal. That you guys got that house, that someone offered you dinner. Those things are big deals when you see them for what they are, and that's cool.
Well, I also like the correlation between the natural process of something and the spiritual process of something. So you related it back to the fisherman. Even Jesus talked about how the natural process of fishing, he related it to the natural process of being a fisher of men and casting out your net and such as that. And so you guys, you related the natural process, and I mean like the tangible process of restoring something, a structure that is dilapidated and broken, right? And so the process there is translatable to restoring a community, a individual person, and the fact that you have an understanding of how to do that. How you have an understanding of that process in the natural world will make you better and more efficient at doing it in the spiritual realm. You see what I'm saying?
That's why Jesus spoke in metaphors, and that's why I relate everything to metaphors. I make a metaphor for everything for me to understand it, because you can't understand the supernatural but only through the natural, because that's how we work, and that's why Jesus taught the fishermen. If y'all have watched The Chosen, I may have told the story on here, but where he says, he's talking about, you see how you get all the fish in and then you sort them and you throw the good ones back out, or, you keep the good ones, you throw the bad ones out. He said, that's the same thing. I want you to cast your net and catch as many fish as you can. I'll sort them later. You just bring all the fish in. I'll sort them later. And that's the only way we can understand it, is through the natural. And so that's a really cool correlation.
Yeah. And within the body of Christ, everyone has a specialized role, right? My role is not restoration. My role is not the restoration of communities, of nations, of even individual people. I don't understand the process of restoration on the level that you guys understand it, because you've tangibly done it in the natural world. So I think that's really important.
Yeah.
Dude, I want some freaking marriage advice. I want some marriage advice, all right? Because I covet just the peace that you guys, the peace that emanates from you guys as a husband and wife.
Well, listen, she wasn't going to sit in on the podcast, and I thought it might have just been because she wanted to be with the kids or something, and she was in there. She was like, well, what if I say the wrong thing? I said, well, if that's it, come in there. And she said, all right, we're a team. I'm going to come in there and do it.
I was actually going to make this entire podcast about marriage, but just for me.
Round
but
two.
like, what are how long have you guys been married?
14.
14? Okay, 14 years. You guys listening obviously know now the lifestyle that Kristy and Darren are living. You guys know this, what they've had, a little snippet of what they've had to endure. We can't see the day-to-day, but it gives you some understanding. And, like, what are some of your core principles? What are some things that have helped you guys as a couple to maintain your healthy relationship, to pour into your children? I mean, all the aspects of what you have to do. There's got to be like some core principles or some things that you guys do that I want to hear about.
One of the things that, and everything's in flow and in season, right? Like when we say things that we've done there, they can be seasonal and we're not perfect. We don't hit these things, but one of the things that we've actually haven't done it for a bit, but we end the night saying, what's the best thing that happened to you today? What's the worst thing that happened to you today? And you just get a glimpse into like, oh, I didn't know that happened. Or like the worst thing that happened to you is like, when you said this to me, that was a stupid thing to say or whatever, right? Like, yeah. But you get a glimpse into a little bit of how they're feeling without saying, how are you feeling? Like, as a man, you don't necessarily want to say like, this is how I'm feeling, but you can say like, oh, this is the best thing. This was something really exciting and you just get to share a bit of your day, and it takes 5 minutes, and that can lead into lots of other great conversations and great things that are kind of going on, and just get to know on a continual level, like, because we're all growing all the time, right? I'm not who I was a year ago, so that's one thing that was helpful. We haven't done it in a minute, but
you're right. Marriage is hard.
I don't think it's that hard.
It depends on who you're married to. So.
But you know what? I had no one say that to me before we got married. I had no one say that marriage is work. And my parents, I've never seen them fight. And I'm sure they have, or I'm sure they've had disagreements, but they always did it behind closed doors. And there's some good to that too, but I also sort of wish that I had seen it to see how it was resolved. Because I got married thinking it was going to be good, and it was like a week in, I was like, how do I get out? What was I going to say about that? Hard.
You're on your own.
Oh, shoot. It was really good. I promise. It was a really good point. I had someone say to me, you're a sinner and he's a sinner. What makes you think that two sinners coming together is going to make one big, beautiful, happily ever after? And I was like, yeah. I hadn't gone into marriage with that thought. So that's been a good thought. I can't expect perfection from him. I can't expect him to be my savior because he disappoints me sometimes, and I disappoint him sometimes.
Wow.
We fight, like, even a few days ago, we were just like not talking, and my favorite time to talk is at bedtime. And he's like got the spiritual gift of sleeping. So like soon as the head hits the pillow, it's out. So it's like, okay, nice talking to you. So it's just
man.
I just can't let that bitterness rest. And the thing we say to each other too is, you have to choose to not be offended. So that's a choice that we have to make, because I could be offended on a regular basis by the things he says or does, and vice versa. Maybe not. No, I'm sure. So yeah, that's a choice that we make. The idea of having a date night once a week, that's great. But we haven't had a date in 8.5 months. It's just us and the kids at all times. And we've homeschooled always, so our kids are just like always with us. So to get that time together, that doesn't really happen, but it's just communication. It's doing life together, and it's also doing stuff together. Like when we go for hikes together, that just builds our intimacy together because we're doing stuff. We're growing together. So there's that. Any other wisdom?
Well, I want to at least point out your daughters are absolutely amazing.
They are.
They are so just physically beautiful, emotionally, spiritually. They just they're on a different level than. And the reason I point that out is because that is the biggest testimony, I think, or the biggest representation of who you guys are. That immediately tells me something about you guys. And I want to go back to when you, Kristy, when you talked about how when you were a child, your parents kept the challenges they were facing kind of separate, right?
Right.
Well, you don't have that luxury.
Right.
Have you been intentional about allowing the girls to see the struggles that you guys face, or how's that been?
I don't even think it has to be intentional. They just
Yeah,
see
I think
it.
just by just by proximity, right? By proximity, that there's no, like in that RV. I mean, you've been looked at them. There's no door, right? There's a door to the bathroom, and two people can't fight in that bathroom. It's too small. So, right? So yeah, it's just by proximity.
How do they react to that?
I mean, neither of us are like yellers or screamers. Like, I can't.
Yeah, but they can sense the tension. They've got to be
sure.
able to sense the tension.
Our middle and our maybe Emmy the most can really sense, like, she knows, right? She'll come and she'll say, I love you, Daddy, when she knows you're upset, right? She just wants to cheer people up. So they can sense it, and yeah, I don't know, what would you say?
We've just also chosen divorce is not on the table, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like, and then you have to nope, rebuke that, because that's not even an option for us. And so our kids know that, and our kids, they see us be affectionate with each other. They see us hug. They see us kiss in the kitchen. They see us dance, and they're like, stop, but we make sure, that is an intentional choice, right? For them to see that in us, that we love each other, that we're committed to each other. So there's that.
Do you see them resolving conflict in their own lives similar to the way they see you guys resolve conflict?
Yeah, they do, totally.
Yeah, they probably punch each other a little more. Yeah, some kids are. Our kids are all different. We've got super strong child, and then we've got a child who's I just want to please, And so we're encouraging her to use her voice too, because I feel that, because that was me. I just want to please. So I don't want her to lose her identity in trying to please us. Mm-hmm. We're trying to bow out of the fight. You win, even if she's wrong. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. That's a tough balance to walk in raising kids. Our kids are totally opposite too. Blakely, the oldest, she's strong. She wants to do things herself, and Josie is more reserved. Chad and them came and got him the other day, and Josie just wanted to stay with us, and Blakely was all about going. Now there's a 2.5 years age difference, but that's just how Josie is. The other day she was getting into the pantry, and she was getting an Oreo out of there, and I said, Josie, did Mommy say you could have that? And she said, yeah. And come to find out, she didn't say yes or no, but the point is that Josie lied. And I was saying, that's wrong. And I was raising my voice. I was calm, but I was stern with her, and her eyes started watering. And Blakely would have just gotten mad at me and wanted to argue with me. And so to see those two things and to try to develop them in their spiritual gifting is tough. I mean, for me and Kat, that's been tough for us to figure out and not get mad about one thing that they do. And marriage is hard, and parenting is hard.
Parenting is hard.
Yeah, and we've realized that, growing up, me and all my siblings were really different, and I saw my parents did an amazing job, but being the youngest wild one, I always thought it was unfair how they parented. But now I see you just have to parent your kids differently, right? What works for, you can look at Josie and you can make her, she's like, okay, I know I was wrong. I gotta look from Dad and I'm good, right? Yeah. Whereas Blakely's no, she needs a little bit more to be rebuked, right?
Yeah. And, I asked you guys a question. Do you see them resolving conflict? Because we also, maybe it's not intentional that we argue or have whatever you want to call it, fights or whatever, in front of the kids. But to me, when something happens, I just want to deal with it then. I don't want to wait and talk about this in 2 hours when the kids aren't around. I just want to deal with it then. And so they see us argue all the time.
Facing your challenges. They see you facing challenge.
Yeah, there you go. That's a very positive way to put it. But they watch us, and, neither one of them really care anymore. They'll keep doing what they're doing, and here we are over there arguing. But I do see them in their own disagreements between the two, after it's over and they realize that they've done wrong, I do see them doing some things that they see us do. And so I've thought about that a lot in my mind, because Mom and Dad didn't fuss or fight in front of us much that I remember. To you? Oh. And I mean, I don't know if it would have been better or worse because they didn't do it. But I've thought about that a lot. Is it better to just let them see it, or is it not? And so that's an interesting conversation.
Well, see, I don't know how to engage emotional conflict. When I was in the SEAL teams, I was going so hard. I developed this personal trait, this characteristic where if there was any emotional conflict outside the parameters of the mission, whatever it was I was doing, whether it was training or deployment or whatever, if it didn't have to do with the team and the mission, I would just completely ignore it. So that's usually my default when emotional challenge presents itself in my life in relationship, is I just ignore it, right? And I just focus on whatever the mission is, and it causes a lot of problems. I'm challenging myself right now to meet these emotional challenges in relationship head on. That requires you to be honest. Yeah. That requires hard conversation, and it requires tension. It's going to cause tension, and if
people aren't going to like you because of how you feel.
If there's one thing that I'm working on right now, it's reprogramming me, like myself, to be more healthy in that arena. I'm good at a lot of things. I'm good at doing things that seem hard to other people. Hard in life is relative. It is so relative. It's like you can't even define it. That's another thing that amazes me. That's something that we all need to grasp. Kristy, you said something a minute ago. You said, we have made the conscious decision to take divorce off the table. And that is, I have to say, we talked about strong foundations a little bit ago. That is the foundation of everything. And I loved how you were honest about the fact that scenario, even if you've taken it off the table and it's not an option and it's just not going to happen, that the option will still play out in your mind. Yeah. Okay? It will. And you have to counterpunch that, man. Like, don't think just because you decide it's not an option that it's not going to sneak into your self-talk, right? It's going to do it. I love that you were honest about that.
I remember right before we got married, like no one gave marriage advice. It was just like, oh, I'm so happy you're getting married. And we were engaged and we were married 12 weeks later because I was just what worked with Darren's police schedule at the time. Or we had to wait a year or something to get married. But so right before, a man came up and said, I've got some marriage advice for you. I was like, all right, here it comes. And he goes, there will come a time where you're going to wish he gets hit by a train. I said, pardon? He said, I remember the exact intersection I was at when I sat praying that my wife would get hit by a train. It's going to come for you too. And that was it.
Wow.
That was at that golf tournament, right?
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah. That was like, all right. No, it won't.
Yeah.
And then a month later, I'm like, yes, yes, it's here. Yeah.
Gosh, man, I love that. I love the honesty of that, man, because that's real. Like, that's real talk.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like with anything else. I mean, you just said you're taking quitting off the table, and we talk about it all the time, but that's how it plays out in marriage, right? And we talk all the time how it plays out in races and physical things, but in actual relationships, that's how it plays out. And even in other relationships and friendships that matter, when things come up that are an issue, you can decide, well, we're going to let this ruin our friendship. Now we're no longer going to be friends because this thing has happened, and I don't trust you anymore, or whatever the case is. Or you can say, well, this is a problem. It hurts and it sucks, but we're good friends and we're just going to go through it, I mean, and so it can spread through anything, but it's a perfect example of God's love for us, right? And when you have kids, you can really feel that. You can say, there is literally nothing that you, child, could do to where I wouldn't love you anymore. Nothing. You could come and cut one of my arms off, and there's something in me that would still love you. And so those, Chad always says, blessings to all that have
blessings
kids.
to all who have children.
But as hard as it is, the things that you get from them are so worthwhile. And when there are things Chad will never know and never understand if he doesn't have kids. And if he doesn't, that's fine. But he will not understand things on the level that I understand things in certain ways.
I did not know I was a sinner until I had children.
Yeah.
So that showed me how sinful I was.
Yeah. Yep.
Y'all recognize the fact that I didn't ask any questions about having kids, right? All those questions came from Blake.
We have a lot of people that have kids that listen to the podcast, and they don't ever get any advice on it because Chad doesn't want to talk about it. So I'm capitalizing on the opportunity of two awesome parents that I have here. We
have had some wins. Like parenting, yeah, for sure is hard, but we've had some wins. We sat down for like a family meeting one night, and we just said, what are some words that we want to live out as a family? And so the kids just shouted stuff out, and we wrote them down on a board, and then we put them into sentence form. So I could call the kids in for you, but we've got like this family mission statement that they can say for you. And we try and say it on a regular basis of words that we're going to live by. And then we have a family verse, let everything you do be done in love. And so we call that out, when they're fighting or bickering over something, it's just like, what are we living by? It's just like, let everything you do be done in love. 1 Corinthians 16. So that is there. And then we say all the time, you can do hard things. That's just kind of like a thing we claim too. Oh, you can do hard things. I don't want to, but you can do hard things. Yeah. And it's just saying that over and over. And, Darren, the kids have seen Darren run for ages. And we were talking about, 15 years of, the hard work before you see a result. I think that's the same way with parenting too. Like we might not see them resolve their conflicts the way we would want to, but I think over time, as they see us do it, they will start to emulate that as well.
And part of that's from your background, Chad, it's the repetition, right? It's words have power. And also, if you want to get good at something, you do it over and over again. So if we repeat these things over and over and over again, these few little phrases, these few verses, if we continually are giving that to them, that just becomes ingrained in their mind. Mm-hmm. So when they're doing something that's hard and they don't want to do it anymore, they're like what will pop into their head? Like, I can't do it because that's what's been taught to me, or no, I can do hard things. Like that will replay in their head because it does in mine. Because I say it enough that when I'm on a run and I'm like, yeah. But I know I can do it, and it pushes me.
Yeah.
So now our kids are running. They've seen them do it, and so now they're running themselves. And Avery, our middle, has this goal. She's going to run for 30 days in a row, a mile. And last night, halfway through the mile, because Darren had to head out last night to a meeting, and what was it, like 8:30 at night? She's like, I have to run my mile. So halfway through, she's like, oh, I'm done. I want to quit. You can do hard things. So then she picks up and keeps going again. So you will see that over time. So it's just being consistent in that too. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How old was your youngest before you guys started like getting the mission statement and things like that?
I think we had the mission before our youngest was born. So she's 5.
Oh, okay.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that was before she was born. So,
yeah.
So she's been born and brought up in
nice.
That. Yeah. Yep.
Well, enough of this kid talk, man. I just want to make a comment because we
didn't win him over.
That's how I feel when he talks about running. I'm like, enough of this running talk, man. Let's talk about it.
We're talking about that positive affirmation. I can do hard things. I love that. I want to go back and just expound real quick, or expound on the concept or the reality that hard is relative. I want to tell you guys listening, in BUDS, Basic Underwater Demolition SEAL Training, the thought of quitting, the thought of divorce never once crept its way into my mind. On any race I've ever run, the thought of stopping has never once crept into my mind. So those are the things that people see as hard. All right? I can relate to Kristy because in marriage, the thought of quitting has crept into my mind many times. All right? In business, the thought of quitting, it creeps into my mind. Like I've thought many days, why don't I just get a job at that park right there across the road where you were baptized, just with a little stick picking up trash every day, you know? It's like, that's the reality of it, right? So there you go. There's a tangible story or representation that what is hard is relative. I want to point that out. And you know what, man? Is it not so refreshing to talk about things that matter?
Yeah.
Amen.
You know, it's so refreshing to sit down and have a conversation that is rooted in the foundation of Christ and faith and life.
But it's also real.
Oh, man.
You know, it's not that topical thing that, Kristy, you were talking about, you know, going to church in that topical conversation. Yeah. This is real.
Yeah. This has just refreshed me. I've been wanting to get back to conversations like this, but I just get so distracted about what's going on around me. I get so distracted, and these are the conversations that people need to be listening to, that we need to be having amongst ourselves. I don't care if anybody listens to this. It's a good conversation for me personally. I want to hear just real quick, like, moving forward. I know you mentioned some businesses, some things like what's that all about professionally? What are you looking at? What are you striving for? And
yeah, so we have this house flipping business that we're not sure where that's gonna go. So we're renovating this house, having it renovated, to sell it. Is the idea. I'll just talk to anyone. So I'm a connector of people, I like to say. And so I got just the most chance meetings of the most amazing individuals. So last night we had a meeting about, actually next week we're getting, I don't know what all the US terms are, but we're starting it's a fermented beverage company. So there's about 8 of us that have gotten together that all have different skills. And, we're looking at launching a fermented beverage company like kombucha and that sort of thing. And then beyond that,
dude, I love kombucha.
Well, we're having in a month in near Columbia. There's the first little tasting.
I assume you've made kombucha before.
Yeah,
it is the ugliest.
Yeah.
That freaking thing.
It took me a while to eat the floaties, the SCOBY.
The SCOBY.
Oh yeah,
that thing looks like an alien.
Yeah.
Right. Super healthy.
So you guys know how to do that, man.
Yeah. Well, so that's when I know how to do it, but there's a guy, he's called the Fermented Farmer, who he ferments everything, and he's got these awesome kombucha recipes. So that's his role.
Health is really important to us, and we're seeing that more and more.
And so we're also looking at doing some farming maybe. That's kind of an interest of ours.
Okay.
The important thing for us is being with people. You know, we want to be farmers-ish. You know, I don't know if the times are going to call for us to have our own stuff. So that's in our mind too, to provide for our family and our kids. But being with people, we don't want to be farmers where we're away from people, where we're forced to be away from people because we're so busy with our cows and whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the thing. We don't know. We don't know. We didn't know we would be here. We didn't know we'd be in the States this long. We didn't know, 8 months ago that we wouldn't be in Canada anymore and thinking about never going back until things change. So I don't know. Again, it's just like a day at a time, being faithful what's put before us. So
so all of our plans are super loose. Like we have these ideas.
Are you hiring?
But if in a month or two the U.S. says no, your application's denied, then we physically have to leave the U.S. So then we got to decide what we're doing.
We might have a place you can hide.
I've had a couple offers. So,
where's this tasting going down at for listeners?
oh, it's actually
Or is this private?
It's a private thing, yeah. So,
Okay.
but in like, I think the goal is in like 60 to 90 days to actually launch a product.
Okay.
So we'll keep you posted.
Awesome. Yes, please do. I drink kombucha every day, and it's, an alcoholic probably spends less money on their beverages than I spend on kombucha per week.
It's the truth.
That stuff is expensive.
I just
man.
found out yesterday, Whole Foods, top 7 sales last year, top 7 products, 7 different flavors of GT's kombucha.
No kidding, man.
That was their, yeah.
Wow.
Ours is going to be healthier though.
I can't wait to try it. I mean, I'm being serious now. It's a big part of our diet and our lifestyle.
Yeah, fermented foods is legit.
So that's really cool. Where can listeners, or is there a place listeners can find you guys and follow you guys on your journey and figure out what happens?
They can. I mean, we don't really do much of that.
We were like on Instagram, and then it was a season off of Instagram. But our Instagram is behappy.dogood. There's that verse from Ecclesiastes again. So that's us on Insta. And I don't have Facebook. Darren Jansen on Darren's Facebook. But I had to back off a little bit. There's just so much negativity on there. It's hard.
Yeah. Yes.
Hard world there.
Yes.
So.
Instagram can be a complete garbage can, but it can also be used in a very positive way. Yep. I've seen both sides of it.
Yep.
I have to agree with you on that.
Yep.
But
yeah, I'm probably like you. Like I'll just be like the rabbit trail of ooh, and this is going on, and who said what, and
you can get sucked in. Oh yeah, especially when you go give a speech at a conservative rally.
Hey, that was killer, by the way. That was amazing.
Thank you.
Good for you. Yeah.
I did love hearing, but one of your, I mean, I think it must have been a podcast after when you said like, when you care about something, like you should stand up and like be passionate about it. Like that's something I think we're missing in this. It's everyone's so compliant, complete, whatever you want. Those aren't even the right words, but like we're missing passion.
Yeah.
Like to give a rip about something and to care enough to stand up and talk about it.
Yeah.
We're also missing fun.
Yeah.
Why don't people have fun anymore?
I agree with that.
I mean, that's why we like this podcast too, because you guys laugh. I mean,
we've got a unique
together.
style.
Yeah, and it's good. People just don't laugh anymore. Where's the joy? So that's what we want to bring back too.
You talk about passion, Darren. If you look at any successful person that has ever existed, they are passionate. That's one thing they're not lacking. Now, even people that use their success for to execute the worst things who's one of the most passionate people you've ever seen in history? Hitler.
Should I tell you? That's who our prime minister is quoting right now.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah. I mean, he was a passionate. Passion is a powerful force. It's a dangerous force to wield. So when you start getting passionate about something in life, make sure you're wielding that passion in the right direction, because it will gain energy, whichever way you take it, right? Mm-hmm. Nobody's ever accused me of not being passionate. I have a lot of passion. And I've never really thought about it. That can be very dangerous if it's not wielded in the right direction. Look at one guy I saw the other day on passion. Have you guys ever heard of the crocodile hunter, Steve Irwin?
Oh yeah.
He
loved it.
The reason he was so successful, the reason we all know his name, he never gave a single interview where you could not see his passion shining through for what his life's work was. That was the single ingredient that made him the standard in the entire world of all time.
Right.
It was his passion. So important. I'm glad you brought that up, man. That's really cool. Blake, you got anything else?
No, this was great. I feel like a dried up sponge, and I've just absorbed a bunch of stuff from y'all. So thanks for giving me the honor to baptize you, Darren, and including me in that journey of yours, and for taking the extra time to come sit and share with us, and for everybody else that listens to the podcast. It was an honor.
Absolutely, for us too.
I want to leave you guys with some scripture here. Since we've prayed, we've talked about faith. This is what I read this morning. And we'll start in verse 9, Matthew chapter 24. I've read Matthew chapter 24 1,000 times. This is Jesus speaking. He says, "Then they shall deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and you shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. Then many shall be offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another. And many false prophets shall rise and shall deceive many. And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold." I want to remind you guys to be on guard and intentionally do things in life that are protecting and preserving and nourishing the love that you have in your heart, right? Because a lot of people are in danger of that love growing cold, right? And the last thing I want to share with you, this really hit me between the eyes this morning. Later on in chapter 24. Chapter 24 is all about Jesus. The disciples approached Jesus and said, what is the sign of your coming and of the end of this age, right? And in verse 25, Jesus, he's told us all these things, what he just described to us right here, right? What I just read about the love of many growing cold and this and that. In verse 25, Jesus says, "Behold, I have told you before." Jesus is talking to us, saying, look, pay attention, all right? Because I'm telling you this. I've told you what's going to happen. Behold, guys, I've told you this. So you're going to be held responsible. I've told you this. And that just hit me smack between the eyes. Jesus is not leaving us with any excuse. He's saying, I told you this thousands of years ahead of time.
Yep.
So you are responsible for how you act in the current, with your life, what you do with your life. Mm-hmm. And he didn't leave us with any outs. I don't know. It hit me between the eyes, man. Mm-hmm. That's all I got. I love you guys. We'll be seeing you again soon. I believe that. Enough said.